Meeting come to order. Any special intentions?
Yes.
Mr. Franchez, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. My assistant Syria's husband is in the hospital. He's under observation at the moment. So if everyone could please say a prayer for Syria and her family. They have been through so many traumas lately and so much heartache with the loss of their great-grandchild and now her husband in the hospital. So if everyone could please keep them in your prayers, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
And also, please keep the late Thelma Boyd Segure, mother of Councilman Mike Segure, in your prayers as she passed away this past Tuesday, February 27th. Thank you for your thoughts and prayers for Ms. Segure and her family, and our deepest condolences.
Gregory.
Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. And also, on behalf of Mr. Gregory Johnson, he's the brother of Mr. Fred Johnson, who has been an employee in the City of Kenner Recreation Department for about 40 years. His brother death was related to some cancer issues that he had developed a couple of years ago. So I ask you to keep him and his family in your prayers. Thank you.
And Councilman Reyno, if you lead us in the prayer.
Let us bow our heads and remember that we are in the presence of the Lord. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings that our local community has. We pray for those who are in the offices that govern our city, state, and country, that they make wise and godly decisions which are always in the best interests of the people that they represent. We are glad that we have the freedom to speak up and vote for those who oppose our set of values. Even if we differ from these leaders, we pray for them to be blessed by you, God, and also those who are in law enforcement and all of our first responders. Please protect them in their line of duty so that they might protect those of us who have placed our trust in them. God, please bless our men and women in our city government, the mayor's office, the council office, and all elected officials, and certainly those who put themselves in harm's way, like the law enforcement, firefighters, and EMS workers. We are so thankful we have all of these public servants. In Jesus' precious name we pray, amen.
Amen. And Councilwoman DeFrances, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Would everyone please place their hand over their heart and follow after me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, you have quorum. Councilmember Klein is absent. In accordance with Council Resolution Number B14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. Under the consent agenda, we have item 1, approval of minutes, the council meeting of February 8, 2018. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. We have none. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. Item 3A is application number 2070-18, Crescent City Cruiser Classic Car Club Incorporated to hold a public gathering on March 16th and April 20th of 2018 from 6:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. for the purpose of a classic car cruise night at Lake Town in Kenner, Louisiana. You will note that several dates have been deleted from this application at the request of the Recreation Department. They'll only be having the event on March 16th and April 20th, as read into the record. Item 3B is application number 2071-18, Pilgrim Baptist Church to hold a public gathering on April 7, 2018 from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the purpose of a church picnic at Veterans Park in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3C is application number 2073-18, Kenner Italian Heritage Incorporated to hold a public gathering on April 20th, 21st, and 22nd of 2018 for the purpose of a festival in Rivertown in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3D is application number 2074-18, Our Lady of Perpetual Help Church to hold a public gathering on April 1st, 2018 from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. for the purpose of an Easter sunrise service at LaSalle's Landing in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3AE is an application number 2076-18, Treasure Chest Casino to hold a public gathering on April 6, 2018, from 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. for the purpose of a crawfish boil on the lake at the Treasure Chest Casino in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 4 is correspondence reports from the mayor, CAO, or department heads. Item 4A, at the request of the administration, a report from Mayor Zahn.
Mayor Zahn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council Chairman. Today was the Green Book meeting, sorry about that, with the state legislators and the Jefferson Parish officials. It was important for Kenner to be there today. Myself and most of my top administration staff was there to actually express to the delegation, not our parish council friends, but our delegation and all the delegation, not just Councilman Stagney and Councilman Stokes, but our top 5 requests. We have a lot of requests, but our top 5 requests are extremely important. The first one has been addressed, the flyover ramp. That has been funded with Garvey bonds. So I guess we're okay there. That's good news. We have a few other issues, though. The ground level traffic issue, which is going to cost about $47 million to rehab Bainbridge, Veterans, and Aberdeen, is an issue. We've got to make sure that the state hears this, and the state legislature and the Senate approves what we need. More importantly would be the Kenner Fire Department's relocation, because when the flyover comes, the fire station that's there on Loyola has to actually be relocated. I made it very clear to the group today, no relocation, no flyover. We have to have our Kenner Fire Station relocated. And you know, sometimes, and this affects Councilman Carroll and Councilman Hand, soon to be Councilman Brennan, this will affect us. This is $6 million that we're asking for. I cannot afford or allow, and neither can this council, for this to become another promise, such as Kenner High School, which unfortunately has been burned now, and also something Councilman Carroll is very familiar with, Lincoln Manor drainage. We have been requesting those two right there for 13 years. The state legislature has never listened to that. That's sad. This cannot be another situation. And I know Councilman Carroll will totally agree with me with the Lincoln Manor situation, because we have a CarMax, which we support, but we also have a Lincoln dealership going up, which is probably only going to make that matter a little bit worse. So we got to make sure those things get done too, and that's part of our top 5 also, Lincoln Manor and also the Kenner High. We'd probably take Lincoln Manor before the Kenner High now with the new developments going up. My point is, it continues to fall on deaf ears with some of the state, and I'm not blaming Stagney or Stokes. I'm just blaming some others that have been up there for a while, that we need to continue to put that pressure on them and make sure that we get what we need. I guess on some good news is the Pavilion Shopping Center. We had a conference call on Tuesday. I know this is a big social media thing, but after I guess, contentious conversation by conference call with the owners, they sent a letter the very next day. And I'll read to you some of the things after we went back and forth, what they plan on doing. They have agreed to wash the exterior. They've agreed to paint the exterior. The color samples should be available to us by Monday. They will start within 2 weeks after we choose the color samples. They have 3 fast-tracked leases. That means they're going to push those very, very quickly. The leases are there. They want to fast-track those. The landscaper, we complained about the landscaping. The landscaper will actually replace the frozen, from the freeze, the frozen plants, and add spring flowers. The monument sign will be repaired and painted, and the pole, they're being very, very, very specific now and looking for everything. The pole by Applebee's that was hit, the light pole, will be repaired very shortly. This is something I promised the people of Kenner when I first came in. We were only in a few months. I'm not happy with the progress. I've made that comment publicly. I guess it hasn't worked on social media, but we sent a letter from code enforcement just recently within the last 2 or 3 weeks. That got their attention. They asked for the conference call. We've been asking for conference calls. They asked for the conference call this time. I think the conversation that we had, and I'll leave it at contentious, worked. I feel like over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll start to see a difference with the Pavilion Shopping Center. I can't guarantee it. I've never guaranteed it. All I've said is this is something that we need to put pressure on and give them the alternative, which was on Fox 8 Sunday night, that if they don't do something, I'm going to come back and ask this council to, I guess, make them the example throughout the city, that if you don't do something, this council needs to put something in the books that will allow us to take those types of buildings down that are not put back into commerce. Do we really want that? Only if we have to, but then we don't get any sales tax out of it. That's why I've asked Kenna to be patient. I feel like the majority of people have been patient. I feel that we've been patient, but now it's time for them to start attracting the businesses that Kenna residents deserve. With that, welcome to answer any questions you may have, but I think we're moving in a positive direction with the pavilion. I hope we move in a positive direction with the state.
Councilman Carroll, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Mayor Zahn, thank you for reminding myself and reminding everyone else as it relates to these number of projects, because it seemed as if the list is growing. Because when Councilman Wilmot was in the state legislature, we addressed getting the monies to address the drainage, the canals. And here we are today, he's on the council, and there have not been any movement. I shouldn't say any movement, but as far as allocating the funds, the money for it, that has not happened. So now you add on the situation with the fire volunteer, and you add on the street, and you add on Bainbridge, and you add on all of this stuff. It is starting to grow. I mean, I realize the state of Louisiana is in some difficult times right now, but the city of Kenner is also meeting some of the same challenges, and even more will be on us if we don't do something soon. And just to make sure everybody understands, even though the CarMax, which is in District 2, Councilman Segura's area, it directly affects the people, the children, the citizens of District 1 from the Lincoln Manor subdivision. So this is something that we both have for lack of a better phrase, a dog in a fight to ensure that we always work together to ensure we get these things done. Obviously, we know that every project, every structure has to allocate water. When water falls on their property, it's their responsibility to ensure that it doesn't flood their neighbor. They will be held accountable for that. But whenever a new structure comes in, like the mayor said, you have to be aware and realize that it could change the flow of things sometimes. There's a canal right there. I don't anticipate it to be added on, but we have to address the issues or the challenges that we had prior to this. So thanks again for the support, Mayor. Thanks again for the council. This is something that affects everybody, not just 1 and 2, but if you go back to Councilwoman Hands, it goes back into University City. So as you see, it affects all of us. Nobody is exempt from this. So we all will be aware of this. We all will be speaking with our representatives to ensure that we get the attention that's deserved. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And next, Councilman Reyna.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mayor Zahn, the projects that you went to the state with, have those projects been given to the state previous years, or is this the first year?
That's what I was saying about the issue with the high school, and there's a number of them, but the high school and also Lincoln Manor. I mean, collectively, it might be a little bit over 13 years. But it's, and look, and I was saying before, the help of State Representative, let me clear this up, Stagney and Stokes, also the help of Councilman Wilmot, now then State Representative Wilmot, did what they could do to make sure that things were funded. Councilman Wilmot, as the state representative, was able to bring back other things. These were bigger amounts that we had asked for, so there was no disrespect to you, Councilman. But yes, it just seems that, and you've heard me say before, the way it gets broken down usually in the state, in Jefferson Parish, it seems that our friends on the other side of the river always get a chunk more than what the East Bank does.
The projects that you're looking for, are those projects, for lack of better words, shovel-ready? Have design been done on any of those projects? Have we done anything on that? I'd just like
I'll let you take
some clarification, because I'm going to make some phone calls, but I want to know before I make my phone calls where we stand on some of those projects.
With respect to the firehouse, we've submitted detailed plan drawings for the new final firehouse, and you have in for first reading tonight the approval of the plans for the interim firehouse to be used. So the plan is, once we identify the location, there will be basically almost like a barn structure put up that will house the vehicles, and a house trailer for the firemen while the real long-term permanent structure is being built. So we have been, for many months now, in negotiations with DOTD, trying to get them to give us some funding for that. That is shovel-ready. And after you approve this amendment to the barn, for lack of better words, the next meeting, then that one is also shovel-ready. That's just some modifications to a pre-existing plan that you guys already have.
And location, you said the location has not been,
We've identified a location. At this point, and I'm not sure how much of this I can discuss publicly, but that will probably end up being an expropriation. So at this point, then there are negotiations ongoing with a seller who at this point doesn't want to sell, wants to lease. We're negotiating that as well. So that is, until that firehouse is taken down, they can't proceed on the ramp because that is the ingress for the ramp. So it was very exciting to get the news about the Garvey bonds and the fact that we will have a ramp coming, but the ramp can't land. That is the landing of the ramp right there where the firehouse is. So this has been in discussions for a long time, but it really can't go anywhere. Plans were submitted previously. Obviously, we can't do this now, but we had plans submitted to the state last year, and I don't know how many years before that, for the Kenner High School. Those plans had been done, I think, in 2001 or 2. Lambert Engineering and some others were involved. So you had the conceptuals along with the assessment of what that was going to cost. As you know, only recently did we get some money towards that, and that was just for the roof. So at this point, until a decision is made about stabilization of the shell and the ability to remove the materials on the inside, we have to test them first before we remove them. So once that's done, you could probably do exactly the same thing as you had planned before, because you basically have done the gutting of it. But we have to do that in a careful and respectful manner based upon the materials that are in there. So those two I can say are yes.
and those are through capital outlay?
Yes, sir.
And so,
We're seeking everything. We're seeking capital outlay, we're seeking DOTD, Federal Highway Administration direct funding, and we're seeking every grant we can get our hands on.
okay. All right. Well, I may have some other questions that I'll call you.
And do you
on.
have money for us?
Do I have money for you?
Yeah. All right. I'll ask you later. Bye.
All right. Thank you.
And I just wanted to take
Thank you,
this-
Mr. President.
You're welcome. I just wanted to take this opportunity to mention, while I was state representative some years ago now, we thoroughly enjoyed being up there, by the way. The state issues are near and dear to my heart, and it was a very important time of my life. But while I was there, as I was outgoing as a state representative, we had a major project that we actually pushed, and it took several of us to get together from Jefferson Parish and Orleans, from this whole region. We got an excess of $4 million to increase pump capacities, which actually impacts 3 major centrally located subdivisions near the airport. So that was our major project at that time. Of course, things change as we move on. And I'm glad that we were able to get that funding for the city of Kenner. So that's all I want to say about that. And we also had issue, that's right, we had the Lake Trail issue as well, and it was excess of $1 million. So glad to be a part of all those things. And we had other things as well, but those were the bigger ones. Okay, next, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. That will conclude the consent agenda this evening. I have a motion by Councilmember DeFranchis, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot. Council members, please vote on the consent agenda. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0 for the consent agenda tonight. Under the public appearance agenda, we have item 9, public hearings for final passage. Item 9A is a public hearing regarding resolution number B16882, a resolution calling a public hearing to determine whether the structures located at 1108 Williams Boulevard in Kenner, Louisiana shall be abated by repair, rehabilitation, demolition, or removal. Mr. Chairman and Council, we've received a request from the Code Enforcement Department for an indefinite deferral this evening. I have a motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Hand, on an indefinite deferral this evening. Council members, please vote on the indefinite deferral. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0 to indefinitely defer.
Next, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. We have none. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution calling a public hearing to determine whether the structure located at 3302 Colorado Avenue in Kenner, Louisiana shall be abated by repair, rehabilitation, demolition, or removal. I have a motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Hand. Council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 13B is a resolution calling a public hearing to determine whether the structures located at 3828 East Louisiana State Drive, Kenner, Louisiana, shall be abated by repair, rehabilitation, demolition, or removal. I have a motion by Councilmember Hand, seconded by Councilmember Segura. Council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 13C is a resolution authorizing the placement for temporary signs on public property for Kenner City Council District 5 and Jefferson Parish Council District 4 to hold a town hall meeting. I have a motion by Councilmember Hand, seconded by Councilmember Segura. Council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 13D is a resolution authorizing the placement for temporary signs on public property for Chateau Estates Elementary School. I have a motion by Councilmember DeFrances and a second by Councilmember Wilmot. Councilman DeFrances, you have the floor.
Thank you. It's absolutely imperative that parents be involved in their child's education. It's only when the children feel that their parents care and are involved that they do well. So by putting these signs out there, we're going to encourage parents to come for an open house. Too often, we don't get all the parents. We don't even get enough of the parents to show up. And hopefully, by working together, we can make that happen. So that's the reason why they're requesting that we have signs encouraging parents to please come to the open house. Thank you.
Council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 12,344. An ordinance approving supplemental agreement number 1 to the agreement with Design Engineering Incorporated for construction engineering and inspection-related services for Chateau Boulevard resurfacing, state project number H.111007.6, federal aid project numbers H011007, Kenner project number 2014-007-RB with an increase of $28,322 for a total cost of $109,440 for the Department of Public Works. I have a motion by Councilmember DeFrances, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot.
We have somebody from the audience.
And I believe Councilman DeFrances had her light on.
Oh.
You want to yield?
Al Morella, 4260 East Florida Drive, 5th District, 46 years. I'd like to get an explanation why the increase. So I guess that's what you want to talk about, Councilwoman DeFrances? That's all I want to know is why. What's the reason for it? Thank you.
Public Works Director and asked him to please give everyone here an explanation of why we're asking for the increase. So your question will be answered shortly. Sir, with your permission, Council President?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
This increase, as you can see from this issue here, was brought on by DOTD, actually. What they'll do sometimes is they'll reevaluate the fees that they calculate. It's a very complex calculation that they have, and they decided that they had underpaid them, if you will. So they introduced this, and they are on board with this, and that's the real reason for it. It really didn't come from the consultant. It originated with DOTD.
And we're just going to make sure that everyone understands that the state will still be paying their 80% as opposed, and we'll only be paying our 20%, even though it was not anything we asked for, nor was it anything that resulted from any errors on the part of the city. Therefore, they're going to be paying their fair share, Mr. Morella and everyone else here.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
correct. Thanks.
Hearing no other discussion, council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 12,345, an ordinance approving an agreement with Digital Engineering and Imaging Incorporated for construction, engineering, and inspection-related services for Veterans Boulevard lighting, Airport to Loyola, State Project Number H.010973.6, Federal Aid Project Number H.010973, Kenner Public Works Project Number 2014-008-SL, in an amount not to exceed $110,038 for the Department of Public Works. I have a motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot. Council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 15C is summary ordinance number 12,346, an ordinance authorizing an additional $250,000 be added to the use of Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office Contract 17-D-1201 with Lamarck Ford Incorporated, Crescent Ford Trucks, and Courtesy Ford to purchase vehicles for the Kenner Police Department.
Councilman Segur, you have the floor.
I have a motion by Councilmember Segur, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot. Go ahead, Councilman Segur.
Actually, I just wanted to yield the floor a moment to the chief so he can give some explanation as to the need for these dollars.
Look so excited, huh? Yes, so I'm asking for the increase because the current cap has about 180,000 left in it. We recently were awarded in a federal narcotics case a few $100,000. And as most of you know from years past, these monies have to be used strictly for law enforcement. And historically, our department has used it for equipment. So we're going to buy 17 vehicles, mostly black and whites, and I think 2 narcotic vehicles. So with this $250,000 increase, we'll be able to buy it under the current contract.
Okay, thank you. As the chief said, this is just I guess, a housekeeping thing, that the annual contract that was approved many, many, many months ago was used for the city's purchase of their vehicles and subsequently used up the approved amount of that contract. So for the chief to be able to purchase his additional cars, we have to increase the cap so that he can now place the order for his cars. So the monies were there for both the city's purchases and the chief's purchase. We just got to give him the tools to do it now. So thank you.
Council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 15D is a resolution approving change order number 2 to the contract with TL Hawk LLC dated July 26, 2017 regarding the demolition of wastewater treatment plant number 2, increasing the contract amount by $43,131 and the construction contract time by 60 calendar days for the Department of Public Works. I have a motion by Councilmember DeFrances, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot. Councilmember DeFrances, you have the floor.
Council President, with your permission, I'd like our Director of Public Works to give a little explanation of exactly what is incurred with this change order.
Please do.
You may remember we had change order number 1, which included a certain amount. It was $43,000 for electrical repairs.
Right.
Well, this is in addition to that. We replaced a lot of switchgear in there, and at the conclusion of that work, it was discovered that there were certain conductors were undersized. So in order to get a proper warranty on the new switchgear, we had to change these conductors out as well. So,
that basically covers the entire cost of the change order?
yes.
Thank you.
Hearing no more discussion, council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 16 is ordinances and summary and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance levying the annual tax millage rates for the year 2018 totaling 17 17/100 mills on the dollar of the assessed valuation of all taxable property within the corporate limits of the city of Kenner, Louisiana on the 2018 tax roll. In accordance with RS 42:19.1, the Clerk of Council is hereby notifying the public that this ordinance will be heard in a public hearing at the Kenner City Council meeting of April 19, 2018. Item 16B is an ordinance amending the City of Kenner Unified Development Code Sections 7.11 and 5.04 regarding the storage of recreational vehicles and recreational watercraft. Item 16C is an ordinance amending the City of Kenner Unified Development Code, Sections 7.11 and 5.04 regarding the storage of recreational vehicles and recreational watercraft. Item 16D is an ordinance amending the operating budget for the fiscal year 2017-2018 to reallocate current operating funds in the IT department to the new Department of Kenner Television in accordance with Section 4.32 of the City Charter. Item 16E is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from H&O Investments LLC for an annual contract to provide grass cutting on an as-needed basis in accordance with seal bid number 18-6417 and an amount not to exceed $175,000 per year for the Department of Public Works. Item 16F is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Classic Flooring, Paint, and Decorating Incorporated in the amount of $9,699.66 to furnish and install carpet tile for the legal department in accordance with telephone bid number 18-2559 for the Department of General Services. Item 16G is an ordinance approving Amendment Number 1 to the agreement with Meyer Engineers Limited for professional services associated with the design of a metal warehouse to accommodate the storage of portable generators, which increases the not-to-exceed contract amount by $4,500 for a total contract amount of $155,600 for the Department of Public Works. Item 16H is an ordinance approving Amendment Number 1 to the agreement with Retief Oil and Fuel LLC, which increases the agreement amount by $350,000 for a total not-to-exceed amount of $665,000 a year. Item 16I is an ordinance authorizing the City of Kenner to hold a public auction on April 26, 2018 to sell surplus movable property no longer needed for public purpose and setting the terms and disposition of proceeds from the sale. Item 17 is reports from the council and our special committees.
Councilman Seguer, you have the floor.
Thank you. For the sake of the members and residents in the audience and the ones at home that have been following the dilemma with the Unified Development Code and the prohibition of parking of recreational vehicles in the front of your house, as you may recall, or perhaps a month and a half ago, we tried to move that forward and take a vote, but then it was understood that we had to procedurally push this through our Planning and Zoning Board first. So that has happened, and now the Planning and Zoning Board has completed their review, which I'm sure a lot of y'all were at that meeting, and has put it on our agenda now for us to look at. But this is the first reading. All this does is put it on record that it will come up for a vote. Now, this matter, because it is a change to the Unified Development Code, does take a 28-day layover. So instead of what we might have implied being the next meeting vote, it will be the first meeting in April that this will come up for the vote because of that 28-day layover, which is in our rules and regulations on how we make changes to the Unified Development Code. So I just want to let y'all know that with the council here has proceeded as we explained, unfortunately, when we couldn't take the vote back then, but explained how we would proceed, and that has occurred. So now it will come back up at the first meeting in April, and we will take action hopefully that night. So that's when this issue will hopefully be put to rest. So we look forward to seeing you at all our council meetings, irregardless of any issue that you may have, but definitely we'll see you back then. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Seguer. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Item 18, new business, we have none. Item 19 is unfinished business and motions to reconsider or remove from the tabled position. We have none. Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
Mr. Morello, if you will, name and address.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 46 years. First, I want to extend my condolences to Councilman Segura and his family for the recent loss. Okay, I want to direct this to the mayor. I like when you get the figures available on the RV show that just completed this past weekend at the Pontchartrain Center. I'd like you to contain that in your report and let the citizens of Kenner know what the economic impact was, not only for the city of Kenner, but for that Pontchartrain Center as well. okay? Now, I want to talk about the fire chief again. The state statute is 33-2481.6. The charter is 4.19. The state works in conjunction. They recommend people to the city council, to the mayor's office. The mayor appoints the fire chief. Now, I suggest again that we take a survey of the voters in this city and see if the people are satisfied with the fire chief being an appointed position, or would they rather have it an elected position? And Mayor Zion just said it a little earlier, about 13 years and the request to the state. Well, the reason why you haven't heard anything, Mayor Zion, is because that's about how long they've been dysfunctional. And that the dysfunction becomes more and more evident every day. So we don't need the state of Louisiana dictating to the city of Kenner who our fire chief is going to be. The citizens, the taxpayers in this city pay that salary, and we should be the ones to decide who our fire chief is going to be, nobody else. But if the citizens are satisfied, if you take the survey and they're satisfied with the way it is right now, then so be it. But if they want the charter change and they want to lobby the state to where the citizens of Kenner will have the opportunity to select their fire chief, then let's go to work. Now, I want to talk about the boat ordinance. I appreciate what you said, Councilman Segura, but I want to say this. When it does come up, we got to think about the utility trailers, the people with utility trailers, as well as the people with boats. Some people don't have utility trailers, they have boats. Some people have utility trailers, they don't have boats. We don't want this to become a divisive issue for the citizens in this city with boats and utility trailers. Now, I think the only solution to this whole thing is to incorporate derelict boats and derelict utility trailers into the ordinance we already have on the books that pertains to junk and debris. I think that's the only equitable solution there could be. And I certainly don't want to see this become a divisive issue, because some boat owners may be happy with what y'all come up with concerning the boat owners, but we can't leave out the people with utility trailers. This concerns, and I don't even have a dog in this hunt, but this is not about me. This is about the people in this city, one city, everybody who lives here. Anybody got any comments, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Greg Teff. Name and address, please.
My name is Greg Taft. I live at 3720 West Loyola Drive, Kenner. The only thing I want to say about the vote being another 28 days delay, do y'all realize how many times the boat owners have been told, well, we got this delay. Oh, now we got this delay. Now we got this delay. I got to tell you, there's a point where a rubber band can stretch so far and then it breaks. And what can happen is what happened before. We can load this council meeting up, if that's what you want, to hear how disgruntled the boat owners are, that we keep delaying the issue. And I hope y'all mean well, because I'm hoping that this isn't a tactic that says, we got elections, if y'all don't vote for me, I'll vote against the boats, or that kind of thing. I'm going to bring that up because that's how mad I am right now.
Council Chairman, can the legal department answer that? Just because there's a reason why it's 28 days.
Right, and if you'd like to.
Yeah, just to address, the delays are delays that are required by law and by procedure. So it's outlined in the Unified Development Code, as Councilman Secure reported earlier. They're delays, it's the law. So, we have to follow the law. It's a 28-day layover by charter when you're changing the zoning text or changing zoning. So it's by charter.
But we don't count the prior year that we've been working on this.
There was a committee formed, there was, council members that looked at this, there was council members that took citizen comments on it, there were public meetings with those citizens, so, sometimes it's a lengthy process, yes. But it's delays that are required by law, so. I hope that clarifies.
You do realize that if all resolutions took over a year, you could bankrupt this city? You could. If it took a year to get every type of legislation passed. I understand what you're saying. I appreciate it. It still doesn't take the pain away. The other thing I want to bring up, and I hope I can do this without getting thrown in jail, is direct something to the mayor.
Sure.
Okay, I just want to make sure I don't get in jail, because I got to get home.
They asked the chief that, don't ask us.
On the pavilion, you are right. Right now, that's a real hot seat. Do you know who these fast track leases are? Well, and then the other thing is, in code enforcement, have they gone back inside the building to see if what kind of rodents may exist, or if there is any mold growing within the building?
Okay. The fast track businesses know because they don't share that with us. And I just said the other night, you weren't there, but it was another function. I said if we did know, we'd be glad to share those. But you and I had talked about, I thought it was you and I, had talked about probably 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, which motivated me and also co-director Rick Walter to send a letter to the pavilion owners was, yes, we had lunch with Mr. Sid Bullitt, the real estate agent, and I said, Sid, I'd really like to go in and take some pictures of the progress inside. I don't have to say anymore that the letter went out because the progress is not there. And that's why the letter went out. That's why I believe we got the conference call, because I think we pretty much scared them. I think when you send a letter that says do something or we're going to get the ordinance passed by the council to tear it down, it gets their attention. The progress inside is not to our standards. That's why we keep pushing. I can't be more honest with you. I'm not happy with it. Mr. Bullitt's not happy with it. I know that the owners know that we're not happy with it. But we got to see a difference. We absolutely have to see a difference. And we've had these discussions. Mr. Teff, you and I have a great relationship. We've talked about that this is a building that has been left unattended for years.
Oh, I understand, sir. I know you walked into.
We are doing more, and I'm not, no disrespect to any other administrations. I've worked with a number of administrations here, but no other administration has addressed this as aggressively as we have. But nothing is taken care of in a year. But I guarantee you, you're going to see some changes there. I have said it before, and we're pushing to see some changes there. I'm very, very excited with I have it in black and white, the email, that they're going to do the painting, do all the outside, the exterior issues that need to be addressed. If they don't, they're going to get another letter. They'll get another letter, and I think we'll get another conference call, and we'll at one point, I'm going to stop with the letters and the conference calls, and it would be before this council saying, I need some help. And the council's been, no disrespect, the council's been great, but I have not asked that yet, because we're not to that point yet.
Right. Is there a time frame when this is going to be taking place?
Yeah, so I said earlier, so by Monday, we're supposed to have paint samples that, because this is a PUD, so we're going to have some back and forth with the council, with the councilman of the district, obviously. This will be something we'll have to look at, get the approval going. If we have to do council approval, and I got to check that, we'll do that at the next council meeting, and then within 2 weeks of that time of choosing the colors, we will move forward. So either it's next Monday or it's the next council meeting. I don't know.
Okay.
I got to check with legal on the legal process with that. Been a while since I've booed with a PUD.
Can I ask
no PUDs in Jefferson
one thing
Parish.
of you, while this process, because we want to, I don't want to have seen people blanket social media about the pavilion. Now, and I think it's because there's, Sid Bullitt, he created some of it when he talked to the Kenner Star.
That was just an informative article.
I understand,
I
but
mean,
what I'm
we're just trying
asking
to-
you, is there any way that possibly, and I know I'm going to be asking a lot here,
That's fine.
can Michelle kind of keep us up to date just kind of giving us a progress.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's
I
one
was
thing
gonna-
to say we're going to paint, we're going to start, but when they say they're starting to paint, they're going to paint this whatever time. The leases, what is the time frame that they see on the leases? And so that people, because I think what's getting people right now in the pavilion is they don't know. And all they keep seeing and hearing is that something's going to be done. And I know that you can't commit to anything because you don't own the pavilion.
Mr. Teffer, we can wrap it
They're
up.
looking to you as the mayor
Right.
to get it
It's
done.
it's just almost incredible, the patience for the last 10 years and the lack of patience this last year. But we will do that. I think your request, I will do that. I think we've done a good bit of that. We will continue to do that as much as possible. Actually, I was going to probably post something by Monday stating the response. Whatever I can post, the back and forth communication legally, I will do that. But I will definitely keep everybody updated like we've been doing, like we did, but we did it in the McKenna store and it became an issue. It started its own life of its own on social media. But we will, maybe we'll put something in the McKenna store again. Hopefully keeps everyone or a certain group happy. I just, and nothing against you, I just find it odd that it's never been a problem until we made it a reality of changing it. So it's almost mind-boggling.
I understand that. It's just that I think that
Mr. Teff, your time is up.
people are-
Your time is up.
We'll talk.
Thank you. Sorry, I'll let you go a little bit longer than the actual 3 minutes. Councilman Segura, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just, Mr. Tapp, just a comment on your comments. First off, this council has not done anything to delay this process. We've actually done everything we could to move it along. Once we had the outpouring of comments from the residents and recognized what needed to happen, the process was started. The committee was formed, the public meetings with various civic groups and whatever was held. That information came back. It then led to legislation being presented, a couple of pieces. And then unfortunately, by legal's definition, it had to go through the planning board, is why we had to set back and let that process take its course, which has now happened, which I just said. And so the next meeting, the 28th, is like city attorney explained, that we have to wait to that point. We can't not do it again any sooner. But I do encourage, fill the room up with people on that meeting, because that is how you do get your message out. And when that night we need to vote, we need to vote. So bring them. Tell us what you want. We'll take the action that night. Okay. So I just want to make that clear. We're not stalling this. It's just the process to make it right, and everybody up here is doing what has to be done to make it right.
Mr. Horner, name and address, please. You have the floor, Mr. Horner.
Edward J. Horner, 616 Ronson Drive, Kendall, Louisiana. I'm looking at item 16B and 16C. The zoning board unanimously accepted 16B as the acceptable provision. They rejected 16C, and a comment was made by one of the members of the board stating that the item was dead. Why is it on the agenda to be read and considered? That's all I want to know.
Okay, the legal wants to address that, or I will. Ms. Roussel.
The Planning and Zoning Commission makes recommendations to the council. The council can also put on alternative options, and that's what was done here. So while the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval, or that the first one go forward, the second one is also going forward. So it's the council, they have the final say on legislation, so it's just a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
Thank you. You want to hold up, Jay? Mr. Horner? Mr. Horner? I don't know if they have, somebody might have a question for you. Councilman Segura, you have the floor.
Well, no, actually, that was what I was going to explain. The legal department is clear that both cases go to the planning board. They just make their recommendation, and then it comes back to the council. So as you said, the first case apparently got a unanimous recommendation. The second case got a denial. But they both have, but they both have to come to the council for us to deal with and make any changes, because even though they are recommendations, changes can be made later. But as I said, we've been through the process. We understand the message. At least I'm sure everybody does. I know I've heard it. So with that, on the first meeting in April, hopefully, and I presumably believe that this will be settled. But as I told Mr. Teff, tell you, everybody, get your friends and neighbors, come out, let us hear. We'll
If that is the process, why have the zoning board? Thank you.
Jay, Mr. Excuse me, 1 second. Mr. Abear, you have the floor.
I was just going to add to what Ms. Roussel said. I was at the Planning Commission meeting. I don't recall anyone on the Planning Commission saying that the legislation was dead. What they did, and with what Councilman Segura said, they voted a recommendation of approval to one and a recommendation of denial of the other. But there was no reference of it being dead.
Let me add, even denials come before this council. So even when the Planning and Zoning Commission denies a singular piece of legislation, it still comes before this body, and y'all have to vote on it. So that's the process.
Okay. Does that satisfy your question?
Thank you.
Thank you. I've seen no others wanting to come up. We'll have a motion. Adjourn.